punch outs were in that blackout phase. So thank you guys for your patience and your understanding while we kind of worked through that. But as of next Wednesday, you guys can start submitting your punch out orders again. So I did want to remind everybody about the Amazon punch out. So there is that 7 day period that your Amazon orders have to go through that workflow and approval, or your orders will be canceled. So just make sure that your DOA approvers are aware of that, because the orders have to go through that workflow step and complete and go through the purchase order within that 7 day period, or it will be canceled. Um, so punch outs, make sure that you guys are reviewing your commodity codes, and changing them if needed before you proceed to checkout, because your commodity codes do dictate your account codes. So if you see anything weird, especially in Amazon and Staples, make sure you are changing your commodity codes. If you need a refresher, there is that Amazon training that is on the P2P webpage. I can drop that in the chat. Julie, if you have time, if you could drop that in the chat on that recorded training session, we do show you how to change your commodity codes. Okay. Sorry guys, I was making this training this morning, this PowerPoint, and I forgot to take out that blanket PO. Okay, so blanket purchase orders. So I know we have some new people on campus and people may not know what a blanket purchase order is. So I just wanted to provide a definition for you guys. So blanket purchase order is a purchase order for goods or services that can be purchased for a specific dollar amount. So for instance, like a purchase order for $5,000 for goods or services that remains open for a fiscal year. Invoices are applied against that purchase order. So a lot of blanket purchase orders are for like facilities. Facilities will do a blanket purchase order for like Home Depot, or I'm trying to think of another one, A1 battery, and they'll leave that blanket purchase order open because they'll be doing repeat purchases again and again and again, and they'll apply it against that blanket purchase order. So it's basically a workaround so you're not having to do like 200 requisitions for a fiscal year. Marina, is there anything you want to add to the blanket purchase order conversation?
Yeah, we just need to be mindful if we have um, what the spend is on these blankets and if there's a true need for it, because our preference is, you know,
Hmm.
not to just create blanket POs for no reason, because that does tie up encumbrances in your budget, because those funds are going to show as encumbered. And the preference is, to do just in time ordering whenever possible. But if there is a particular reason why you think something might qualify for a blanket, then I would say, contact procurement and we can discuss different options with you.
Agree. As we were closing blanket purchase orders at the end of this fiscal year, as a buyer, I did see some blanket purchase orders that had the full encumbrance amount. So that full encumbrance amount was basically tied to your budget, and you could have used that money for something else, but your departments kind of just had that money held up for that whole fiscal year on a blanket, and you could have used that money for something else. So I agree, Marina. Just be aware, um, when you're doing blanket POs, if you really need that blanket PO open for something, or if you could just do a requisition when you actually need that purchase to be made at that time. So a list of the 23-24 blanket purchase orders is posted at this link on our website. So this is every blanket PO that was made last fiscal year. So it will help you to create blanket purchase orders for this fiscal year in P2P.
I would like to add that process where procurement will generate this listing that's for like campus wide. This is the last year that we're going to do that process, because all of the blankets should be migrating to procure to pay, and you have the ability to see the transparency of all of your activity in that system. You can create searches on how to pull up POs that you've created. They'll all stay in your list where you have the option to see, requisitions that you've submitted, direct pays, um, and the associated documents with those requisitions. So if it was flipped to a PO, if it was flipped to voucher, you have the ability to see all of that information. So procurement would pull that information from CFS because there were some users that would not have access to CFS to see their PO information. So after this year, you'll have the ability to find that information in procure to pay. So the spreadsheet that we would provide will no longer be provided moving forward.
Thank you, Marina. Okay, contract processing. I just wanted to revisit this section. So only authorized officials under delegation can sign contracts on behalf of the CSU and its auxiliaries. So for the CSU, it's either the president, the CFO, the AVP for Business and Financial Services, or the director of procurement, which is Marina. For ASI, it's the executive director, which is now Mike Kwan, or the ASI president. For foundation, it's going to be Heath. And then for student centered enterprises, it's Dr. Wallace. So those are the only individuals on campus that can sign agreements. Um, so the best course of action would be to attach your unsigned agreement in P2P under the attachments tab, and then your assigned buyer will work on your agreement for you, and get that signed, um, with on behalf of one of these individuals. Marina, is
And
there any?
let me,
Go ahead.
yeah, let me
Mhm.
clarify. So the delegation of authority comes from the CSU trustees who delegate it to the campus presidents, who delegate it to the CFO, and then myself as the procurement director. That's for stateside. Um, so there are instances where the president might sign contractual documents. There are instances where our CFO will sign contractual documents, especially in relation to construction work. But procurement knows the correct person to direct that for signature. So we're not saying you guys need to direct these contracts to them. They should always come through procurement. And if there is a situation where a contract is, signed by the president, just be mindful in order for procurement to act to track these contracts. We need to have copies of them on file. So, if there are contracts that you've worked with, another department outside of procurement on, it'd be helpful if you sent that contract to procurement because we're typically the people that get contacted for Public Record Act requests. And if there's requests that are related to certain documents, if we don't have the contract, we can't provide the copy of it. And then other times people will ask us if we have a particular contract because they need information or need to check the requirements. So if procurement doesn't have it, we can't provide it. So certainly talk to us if you have any questions as to what you think might be a contract or not. Um, we're here to help you with those questions, and we'd rather get the questions ahead of time instead of after the fact.
Okay. Anything else on contracts, or we're good?
Nope,
Okay.
we're good.
Okay. So sole source. I just wanted to provide a definition on a sole source, and then I'll let Marina go ahead and add whatever she wants to add because we get a question on what sole source is every time we do a training. So a sole source is items that have a unique performance feature not found in other items and are available only from a single manufacturer or from a dealer with exclusive distribution rights.
So keep in mind, we're not saying that if this is a situation for a $150 part that you have to click sole source, right? It just depends on the dollar threshold for the item. And if you look at the procurement website, we do have our procurement policy on there, and we do list what those thresholds are. So I would refer to that document, maybe even think about saving that on your desktop so you're aware. So, I mean, and it's the amounts are pretty large amounts. So contact procurement if you have questions as to whether something needs to be submitted on a sole source. And if the buyer sees something was submitted and it needed a sole source, they might return it to you to answer those questions. Um, we just need to be mindful if, because the CSU requires us to do competitive um, bidding as much as possible since we are a public institution. So when a sole source is processed, that means we're circumventing that competitive bid process for whatever reason there is, but really they should be sole sources and um, there's two parts of it, sole source and
Soul brand.
sole brand. Yeah, there's that those should be the exception and not the norm. And depending on the thresholds for the purchase, besides me having to sign it, it then also has to require the signature of the person requesting it. Um, it could be the department chair, it could be the vice president, and then if it's extremely high, it goes to our CFO, and then if it's over a certain threshold, I think it's maybe $200,000, it has to go to Dave Beaver, who is the chief procurement officer for the entire CSU system. And if he says no, then we can't move forward with that purchase. So when you're looking at buying expensive items, equipment, things of that nature, I would say work with procurement in the beginning because it'll save you some time for you going out and doing the work and then to submit it to procurement. And we tell you you can't process it that way because it needs to be bid out. A lot of times we can search and see if there's any competitively bid contracts that we can utilize that meet the criteria. So our campus can piggyback off of those contracts. There's a lot of purchasing cooperatives that we are members of. So, if you just give us like a general, without it being a specific brand, um, we can search and see if we can find that type of equipment, such as, maybe it's facilities and they're wanting to buy a tractor. We can look for those things. And find items that are under a competitive contract. So that way that will expedite the process. And then if you don't have a particular vendor in mind and we need to bid it out, just keep in mind that process does take a bit of time depending on if it's an informal or formal solicitation. So it's best to check with procurement early on to get that in our queue and get that moving forward because to be honest with you, like a formal RFP process usually takes 2 to 3 months to complete.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so submitting blankets in P2P. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing. Okay, I'm gonna have Julie share her screen.
Okay, I'm sharing my shopping page. Are you able to see it?
Yes.
Okay, so what we're going to do is an example of a blanket PO and how you would do it in P2P. So on the shopping homepage, the first thing I'll do is put on my shopping persona. And it's showing up on the left-hand side on top, so I know I'm in a shopping persona. Then I'll go down to the form for goods and services request. Okay, and I'm trying to think of a supplier that would be a blanket PO. So I don't know if they're all in here yet. Um, I was gonna see, I think Lisa has one, but I'm not sure if the company's in here. California Highway Patrolmen's Club. Let me see.
Yeah, and I also have one for Elevon, and when I went in there, it has a different address than what I usually send it to.
Oh, is it? It's not this elevator, right?
No, it's
No.
Elavon.
ELA. Let's try
Yeah,
that.
yeah, there it is.
Okay, so it shouldn't be going to Tennessee.
No, it's I think it goes to Minneapolis, I think.
Just do it for the sake of the demo and we'll add the remit
Okay.
later. We'll take
Okay.
care of that offline.
Okay,
Yeah.
then let's test Elavon. And so I'll select this company and put next, and then we'll have to go through and answer the questions on the form. So is Elavon usually a service, or do you usually get services from them or goods?
Yeah, it's for a credit card
Okay.
processing.
Okay, so I'll put services, and yes, it's a blanket order. Um, and currently it's not a renewal. Well,
It is a
it
renewal.
is a renewal. So what was the last PO number that you had? Do you know it? If
I
not, we
had,
could just make up one.
yeah,
Like if
because I had it up
okay.
yesterday because I was trying to do it, but I think I
So I'll just
no.
put in a random,
Okay.
because it's just a field that you can type in. It doesn't pull any information from the previous record. So I'll just type this in for now. And does it have a performance start and end date? So we'll say yes, we'll give it the fiscal year date.
Mhm.
And just to remind you guys, anything that has a star next to it is a required field. So that it you have to fill that out. If it doesn't have a star, it's not a required field. So if you don't know, like if you didn't know this information, you could bypass. Just for the record. Go ahead, Julie. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. And so it's not a sole source or sole brand. So I'm going to click no and then next to the next page. And so it's asking for details about this request. So you said it was a credit card processing?
Yeah, the credit card processing fees
Okay, so I'll just put that in here.
for parking.
Okay, then we'll click on next. And do you ever get any documents to attach to that? Oh, I think you're muted. Let's see.
It's for invoices that,
Okay,
yeah,
so we'll say no because I think what they're referring to is like a quote or
yeah, no.
something like that. If you have like rates that they're giving you in advance. So the pricing would change every month when they bill you for that?
Yeah, sometimes we get chargebacks for $6 and then the monthly fees are like anywhere from $600 to maybe like 700 or $800, it just depending.
Okay, so I'll go ahead
So
and
we,
put no.
okay.
And so let's say you do, I think it's maybe, I don't know, 10,000 a year.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll put 10,000. You don't have to put in the dollar sign. And then I'll do a quantity of one. A unit of measure, I'll put lot because it'll keep on extracting different dollar amounts each time. And then on the product description, I'll go ahead and put the same thing, credit card processing fees. And I can actually leave this, I believe I can leave this information blank or I can add it in. Commodity code. What would we put for blanket PO for this? Services? General services?
Yeah.
I
Okay,
agree with that.
go ahead and save that and then go to next. Yeah, so it gave me a green check mark, so I didn't actually have to put the dates in that area. And since it's going to be one line, do you know if they tax you on this service?
Um, I I can't remember if they do or not.
Okay, so go ahead and leave it untaxable for now.
Okay.
So add and go to cart since we're just doing one line. I'll click on that. And then I'll just fill in the information as we would any normal requisition.
Oh, and it's not taxable.
Okay, perfect. So it's currently listed as non-taxable, so we don't have to change that. And let's say you want to name it fiscal year 25 or 24-25. Blanket PO for credit card fees. Oops. And everything else looks good on this shopping page, the shopping cart. So go ahead and proceed to checkout. Okay, so the issues that I currently have is putting in my chart field string. So go ahead and scroll down to enter that information with the pencil here in the chart field area. Put in the business unit, select the fund, the debit ID, it's valid. Now I'm going to save that information. And am I missing any steps here, Bianca? I think that,
You can go up
okay,
to the very top, click this pencil right here,
okay,
and then you're gonna check this box.
okay. And do I need to put anything here, or is that a
No,
procurement function? Okay,
that would be the
okay.
last step.
So I'll go ahead and save that since it's a blanket PO. Have the check mark here. And is there anything else that needs to be done before we submit this request?
Nope, you have it named correctly because we know that it's a fiscal year 24-25. This is checked because it is now on that it is a blanket PO. So the buyer would know that it's a blanket PO. So you have no
Okay.
errors and the submit request button is red. So this is good.
All right. So we'll go ahead and push this button and it'll give us a requisition number and shows that it has been submitted. Any questions on this? No. All right. So I'll go ahead and go back into this and recall the request or withdraw the request so that way it doesn't go any further. And
What if
withdrawing, go ahead.
what if we don't see the commodity code? I'm following along to do one for my courier service, and I don't see what would link to where it's actually the account code that it's charged to. I see services,
Mhm.
but it's for a delivery service, a daily delivery service. So I'm just afraid to put in the wrong commodity code, and then I'll be messed up with having the wrong account code for it.
Bianca, I think that you have a place where they can go and see the list of commodity codes that
Wh-
link to account codes.
What account code do you need to have, Jeanette?
660801.
Okay, you may need to account code override.
Okay.
So when you get to where you're entering in your chart fields,
Okay.
you can account code override.
I do want to remind everybody
Mhm.
that we did the mapping for commodity code to account code, and that was reviewed and approved by Liz. So I know a lot of people are very used to always using the account number they use, but to be quite honest, we determined there are a lot of instances where people were using the incorrect account code, and um, procurement would sometimes get calls from accounting that we needed to change it because that was not the right account code. So
Yeah, I'll
I
put
would
it.
say
Yeah.
email that, or if you could take a note and look at that, and we can look at the spreadsheet to see if there's a specific commodity code assigned for courier service, which I think kind of falls under carrier, mail, general mail.
Exactly. Yeah, that's
And
what it
we
is.
can see what that account number is mapping to and get back to you on that if there's a need for you to do an account override.
All right.
We're looking. She's looking right now to see if it maps because some of them don't map, Marina. So
How do you spell
Julie's looking.
courier?
Courier.
They actually, in the account description, they call it carrier, carrier service.
Okay. Carrier.
Yeah.
That it's going to be in there.
It's not
I would
coming
put
up.
it under like just general mail services. So do we have
Yeah,
mail
there is a
in there?
postage and freight, but that's not really what this is.
Hold on, Julie. I'm
Okay.
looking. Okay, keep going. And when you put that in, is it showing in a commodity code for it, or you haven't tried to put it in yet, Jeanette?
Let's see, let me move. Well, yeah, I'm at commodity code and I looked at services. So I haven't put anything in yet. I wasn't sure if I should do a
So
miscellaneous.
typically it should already have a commodity code in there because that maps to the supplier. So was there a commodity code in there already?
I don't think so. Let me see. Let's see. Required field cannot be empty. So no, there is no commodity code in the
Okay.
form.
Okay. Just take a note down, Bianca, and we'll have to investigate this and we'll get back to you on that, Jeanette.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Was there any other questions on the requisitions for blanket POs? If not, I'll go ahead and I stopped sharing my screen so Bianca can move forward with the next part of the presentation.
Sorry, I'm pulling it up. 1 second. Okay. The next part is submitting. Let me get to it. Sorry, guys. Okay, here we go. Sorry. Okay. So the next part is submitting a multi-year agreement in P2P. So I'm just going to show you one that's already been done. So this is one for Bynum. So this is a multi-year construction agreement that was done for this fiscal year, but it's broken out over a 3-year time period. So I'm going to show you how this was done. And when you get to a point where you need to do this, I'm probably just going to have you come to an open lab and walk you through it because this can be a little bit tricky. But I just want to show you what it looks like because it's a little bit tricky.
Hey, Bianca, I'd
Yeah,
like to talk about
yeah,
the
go ahead.
purpose of these multi-year
Yes, sure.
POs. So previously in CFS, we really didn't process
Hmm.
a whole lot of multi-year POs. We said, even if you have a contract that's for a multi-year term, say you have a contract that's for 5 years. You would just have to submit a requisition every year for that year's expense. So, in talking to other campuses when we made the transition to procure to pay, the majority of them seem to use multi-year POs, and I think it makes sense to now um, follow that process for our campus. So that doesn't mean that you're going to be submitting blankets for multi-year terms. Those have to be submitted annually because there's no contract necessarily tied with those blanket orders. But there's a difference from a blanket order versus, like an annual um, PO, we used to call them, but really in most cases they're multi-year POs, but it has to be, that's the term of a contract or agreement that we have with the vendor. So if you have a 3-year or 5-year, this will give you the ability to submit one requisition for the entire term of the contract, but not tie up the funds for the full 5 years, right? Because most often departments don't have the funds to cover it for the entire term. So this shows you how you can submit an annual requisition. And I think it just creates efficiency because then people aren't having to submit them every year and also have to remember to submit it every year. So that commitment's there. And then every year we would just adjust the line item for that year to increase it by that year's amount. So that year could get processed and paid. Um, but it's set up in a way that the PO will stay open even if the annual amount's been processed.
Perfect.
So when
Okay.
in doubt, if you aren't sure whether something should be set up as a multi-year PO, again, check with procurement.
Okay. So what Jillian did is this is a service agreement for Bynum, so it is a construction agreement. And Julie, you can annotate as we go along. So what she did is she entered line 1 for the first fiscal year, 23-24, and she entered the amount that she wanted to encumber for year 1 of the agreement, which is $280,000 as a lot. So this is her first year of the agreement. This is the commodity code and her chart filled string. Okay. And then this is the second line. What she did is she made it for $1. So this is for fiscal year 24-25. So this is for next fiscal year. So encumber on or after July 2nd. So this is for the second year of the agreement. So what will happen, Marina, is as we move into next fiscal year, next week, we will open this line of the PO, correct? For these funds to encumber.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know that it'll happen
Question.
next week, but in this fiscal
Right.
year, we would open that
Sometime
line
in
item.
this fiscal year,
Yeah.
it will open this PO.
But with that said, we would still, the buyer would still need to get approval from the DOA
Right.
approver
Mm-hmm.
to increase that PO. So
Right. Then this is for the next part. So this is for the following fiscal year, 25-26. So it's just for $1. Okay, and then this is for the last part of it. So this is for the remaining part of the agreement. So as we move into the remaining part of the fiscal years, like Marina said, she would have to get approval from her DOA saying, okay, let's encumber this amount for fiscal year 24-25. The buyer would have to open that amount. Then as we move into fiscal year 25-26, Jillian would have to get approval from her DOA to open this encumbrance amount as we move into fiscal year 24-25, so on and so on. So that is how a multi-year agreement in P2P would work as we move through fiscal year periods. So the attachments are here. This is the fiscal year breakdown, and then she has comments related to this agreement. But this is how the breakdown would look. So I just wanted to show you what it looks like, but again, as Marina said, um, definitely contact the CSU by email because we would want to see, yes, if this is indeed how it would need to be done, and then we'll walk you through the process of doing it if and when that time comes. And then we'll walk you through the process of moving through fiscal years and moving your encumbrances through. Anything else you want to add, Marina?
No.
Okay. Any questions on that, guys? I know it's a little bit tricky looking, but once we get there and we walk you through it, it's a pretty easy process. We just have to get your agreement executed by the buyer, and then we'll just move your encumbrances through. It's actually a pretty easy process. It just looks a little bit complicated at first, but it's a fairly easy process.
Good job, Bianca.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, so that is all we have for you today. Any other questions you guys have?
I think my brain is melting and I just
No!
It's because it's already getting hot outside.
I'm probably going to have a few questions, but I'm going to email them to you because I think they're very specific to like software renewal and all of these weird things that I end up doing. So
Okay. When in doubt, you can always email the CSU by email. Julia and I are here to help you guys and support you guys. So, yes, any questions you have, feel free to email the CSU by email. Again, there's training videos on the web page. If you need help with like the software, IT software request form, hardware, there's training videos, there's quick reference guides. But yes, if you have questions, feel free to email the CSU by email. We're here to help you through all of this P2P stuff. Okay, if there are no
Thank
other
you all.
questions, yes, we'll give you like an hour and 15 minutes back. Whoa. All
Bye. Have a
right.
great day.
Bye, Panda Julie.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much. Enjoy your weekend.
Bye, everybody. Thank
And
you.
we have P2P Open Lab this afternoon if you guys need help. All right, guys. Thank you.